Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, today's episode is for anyone that's heard the term SMSF floating around, maybe at a barbecue or on the news, and thought, sounds complicated, but you keep hearing it, and it can be a game changer for property investing, but you don't know enough about it. Well, I'm going to change that today. We're going to break it all down in plain English with someone who lives and breathes this space. Jason McCall, better known as the SMSF Property Guy, is a Melbourne-based buyer's agent who specialises in helping clients use their self-managed super funds to invest strategically in property. So in this episode, what we'll cover, what an SMSF actually is and how it works, how it can be used to buy property, with or without borrowing, the traps, myths and rules you need to know before diving in, and real-life examples of how clients have grown wealth using this strategy. So, Jason, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Jo. Appreciate you having me today.
Oh, I've been so keen. Like I said to you right before we've been having a bit of a chat, and I was saying I have not covered SMSF clearly or properly before, and I've been so keen to have you on because you live and breathe this stuff. So I think
thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely something that's becoming more popular. So I appreciate you giving us the chance to have a chat.
Yeah, 100%. So, I think before, like all good stories, we have to start with backstory, right? Because you don't just jump into real estate or buyer's advocacy and go, SMSF, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so take me back. How did your career in property and the finance side, because you've got a very varied background. You've like tax, finance, you've got a lot of experience.
I started in finance out of school. So I was in the insurance industry for a good 12 years. So I worked my way up from the meager mailroom all the way through to a senior claims manager, at West Farmers. So when I started back in the early 90s, it was a small little rural insurer, but now it's the big conglomeration that it is and owns pretty much half of Australia, really, I think.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's so it was great grounding for myself. Obviously, you learn a lot about customer service, how to deal with irate clients and all that sort of thing. So claims was pretty tough. So from there, I was there for about 10 years, and then I decided I needed to get outside of the office and moved into insurance adjusting and did that for a few years with some high adjusters. So didn't enjoy the reporting side of things, being out in catastrophes and being away from the family a lot. So it was always, my idea was to sort of get out into a role that was outside and able to meet people and able to sort of help them, and sort of been able to do that through some of my journey, which has been great.
No, that's awesome. And I think, that experience, it always sets you up for some sort of grounding, right? Because you end up with, I think, corporate spaces as well, or that early stage claims in particular, everything has a structure, everything has a step through guide, whereas real estate still kind of feels like the Wild West.
Yeah. Well, when I first started, there was no such thing as plain English policies. Everything we read was almost like a legal document, really, and it was very hard to sort of obviously, explain that, and that was my job, was to explain that to the general public. So being able to work that and being able to understand that and learn that through many, many years, obviously it does hold you in good stead over the rest of your life with whatever endeavours you've done. And, I've been through sales jobs and other things, and I've worked in construction, and my last role was at the docks down at the Port of Melbourne. So I've had a bit of a varied life, but what I learned early on really took me the whole way through. Yeah. And it does still continue to do so today, especially now that I have my own business and setting everything up the right way. So then I have the best experiences for my clients as well.
Yeah, because you've got it's like you've learnt all the things that, you don't do. And now you're taking it in and going,
you get to explain them. I don't have to, used to deny claims and stuff. I don't have to deny claims anymore, but I can at least, deliver bad news in a good way. Yeah. And so at least make them understand it a little bit better.
Well, I have to be honest, right, because that is one of the toughest things that I find with a lot of real estate professionals is the saying no, or the denial of when there's a bad outcome. This is often where you get ghosted by agents because they don't know how to handle the rejection or the bad news. So then you just don't hear from them. Yeah. And it's like when you've worked in a space like you have with claims, which you're dealing with very upset people, sometimes devastating, happy or sad, you've got a really good basis. So it means that you're going to be very honest with your clients and go, well, look, I know how to deliver feedback, and if it's bad or good, I'll give it to you.
Like, especially in SMSF space too, where there's so much rules, regulations. Yeah. People have differing opinions on what they all mean, and being able to just sort of say to them, "Hey, that's how it is." And no, you might think in your world that it should work this way, but unfortunately, this is how it works. And that's why we work with, plenty of finance professionals who have that knowledge and background that I can lean on to actually back that up as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that makes complete sense. And, like I said, I think one thing I want to talk about is then you've got all this varied experience. What kind of drew you into the SMSF, investing space, and how did you become SMSF Property Guy? That's what I want to know.
Well, it does go quite a big story that goes way back. Like, the real crux of it really came to, I went through a relationship breakdown, and being a single dad at the time, and my kids were very little, so they were like 0 and like 3 or 4. So it was going through that process of, child support and paying for rent and all those bits and pieces, and not really having too much left over. I'd had property beforehand, so when I was younger, I'd bought blocks of land, built a property which I never got to live in though, and so I built up, lost it, and then over that period of time, like, you're sort of not able to get back on your feet to a point where you've got enough savings to go out and buy property or go out and do what you'd like to do or invest where you'd like to, because you're paying for your kids and all that sort of stuff. So what happened, the light bulb moment happened one day, and I was literally I think it was just on Facebook, and just saw a webinar about it all, and I sort of was through a buyer's agent. I just sort of jumped on and just listened to it one night, and got to the point where, I can't buy it outside of outside of a normal environment, but there's a possibility here I can, use my super, because I've worked my whole life. I did have and also my last sort of 10 years have been in construction and dock working. So the actual superannuation was quite healthy. So that's how I got to that point. And then that got me back into property investing. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. Being able to, thought I had nothing, but then getting to the point where, well, let's just go down a different fork in the road, which is not the normal. Yeah. And then I'm able to purchase something which I didn't think I was ever able to do.
So that's a really good story, I think, and a good journey. Like, I'm sorry about your relationship breakdown, but, it's often from those hard times that, you got to pull yourself out of it. How do you do it?
Or learn all our best, lessons in life.
Oh, because you got to you've got resilience at that point, and I think a lot of people and a lot of buyers can relate to that, because, property is filled with relationship breakdowns, why properties go on market, or you have to buy something else. It's like, and it's sad, but again, you can relate to anyone who's going through that, and you're like, listen, I know this is shit right now, but we're going to be okay.
Well, that's right. And I think it's just a matter of just biding your time and then making the right decisions at the right time that are best for you. Yeah. So, and that's what I did. And once I got onto that journey, and I went through that, and the buyer's agent that I worked with was great. And he just sort of said, mate, why are you doing this? You should be, doing this. You'd be great at being a buyer's agent doing this. So I went, I just absorbed it a little bit. It didn't really, because I was working at the docks, and I just sort of put it in the back of my mind. And then a few years later, my body wasn't feeling the best, and I used to have a very hard job. I'd be working 2-day shifts, 2 night shifts, 12-hour shifts. So it wasn't great. It wasn't fun. Working up on a container ship, looking after the big gantry cranes. So I sort of had a light bulb moment up there one night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just went, you know what, I need to transition out of here. So that's what I've been doing probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And I started to transition out of my work into becoming who I am now, the SMSF Property Guy.
I love that, because what a good story. Like, you've just kind of mulled it. It's like you didn't go into it straight away, but
had to take my time. Had to, do all my schooling, and had to, I'm a licensed real estate agent,
of course,
as well. So it's not like I just sort of decided I wanted to, go and help people buy property. I had to, bide my time and do my education and learn. And I've spent a lot of money on education over the last 3 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, no, and you do, the more knowledge you have, and I think life experience too, because you've also been through the buying and the selling process before. So it's not like property was foreign, and it's a very different way. Like when I got into real estate, I was 18. I'd never bought a house at that. Forget it. I just finished school. So it was very hard for me to relate. I had to learn a lot of that education stuff first and then do life experience and go, oh, yeah, this is pretty crap. You go into buyer's advocacy in the end because I had life experience and go, that's pretty shit doing this. But it's very similar in your case. Like I like that you've had that life experience because it's very different when you go into property at this stage, right?
No, that's right. And you get to choose, like you want to work with owner occs, you want to work investment. And it's funny that, I prefer the investment space, but I still get owner occ people and I've done 3 or 4 and it's still stuff that I still enjoy doing. It's just not where I want to focus myself and my business, but I'm still there to help people.
It's hard to say no.
That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, because people come to you, it's like, oh look, I specialise here, but okay, no, I can't not help you.
That's right. Oh, that's exactly right.
Well, look, I think we need to break down SMSF, okay, because this is what this episode's about, and we've got the right expert here. We've learnt about your background. Let's start with the basics. If someone's never heard SMSF before, which I don't know where you've been hiding if you haven't, what exactly is it?
Well, it's a self-managed super fund. So everyone, when they start their first employment or whatever, usually gets a form that they get thrown in front of them and you just said, sign it here. And for some reason, they take out a percentage of money every week from your wage and it goes to someone else. You don't really know what it's about or where it gets this, what it does or whatever. Especially, I remember that happened when I was like 16, 17.
That's so true.
And especially if you're working at, IG or those sorts of Maccas, whatever, no one knows what's sort of going on. But in a sense, you've got someone managing this portion of your retirement money for yourself over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah, it's a generic super fund.
It's a generic industry fund. Like there's so many out there and they all do a great job, but sometimes there's another way to do things where you can have more control. And that's what it is at the end of the day. A self-managed super fund or SMSF is you taking control of your retirement money.
Wow. Okay. So I think that's very clear because I love the analogy. That was so true. I'm like, yep, I don't know why. At the moment, I have 2 supers and I don't know why. And I've got a Porsche. I've got like $10 in one and then all this other money in the other. And I'm like, huh?
There are reasons and good times, good when you do have or keep money in your super industry because, they have so many people, right?
Yeah.
That, they have great insurance policies and those sorts of things for death and third party and disability and those sort of things. So there are reasons to still have those sorts of insurances or industry funds. But, at the end of the day, you can control the investment choice that you make, whether it's property, collectibles, even crypto these days, all that sort of stuff you can purchase if that's your strategy inside your own self-managed super fund. So it's a matter of what you guys decide to do with the fund that you do set up.
So this is interesting, right? Because everyone talks about wanting to access their super, right, for different reasons. Like I think the latest one is dental. Like dental work, you can access your super, get that money, but you've got to get special permission to go and get that money from the super. And where everyone is kind of getting upset at the moment, and this is what I'm hoping to debunk today, is, well, it's my money and I put it away. Why do I have to get permission from this company to go and access it? If I want to drop it on a property or drop it on this, I should be able to do that. Is SMSF the way and a tool for that? But you need to have a strategy, obviously, to bust that money.
You still can't do that sort of stuff. Like I know there's like compassionate grounds and those sorts of things for small portions, so up to $10,000 or something like that. But in relation to the gist of it all is that there's a sole purpose test that you need to meet, which is your money is solely to benefit your retirement. And that's basically the overhanging umbrella for an SMSF and your industry super.
So then it's kind of like why property makes sense, because that, if you buy an asset that grows over time and then you sell it, that money would help your retirement.
That's one strategy. And when we talk about super and retirement funds, it's about diversification at the end of the day. And we're not against diversification. Like property is just one part of the puzzle. Yep. There is shares, there's cash, there's gold, there's whatever you want to, especially in a super environment, you can, collectible cars, artwork, whatever you want to do. As long as it's part of your strategy and it's something that is going to appreciate and help you at retirement age.
Gotcha. So, okay, that's actually really clear. So then I guess we've kind of established like how it differs, right? So what types of property can you actually buy under an SMSF? Like if we go back to the real estate side.
Well, you can't buy a holiday house. So that's how it started.
Damn it.
But it's basically, it's in residential property, commercial property. A commercial property is a big one because with different tax strategies, you can actually, as a business owner, purchase a property and then rent it back to yourself. So there is ways. In a normal situation for a residential property, you can't live in it yourself. So unrelated parties involved at the end of the day. So no family, no friends, no one that you really know is allowed to rent out the property, etc. It's arm's length sort of scenarios.
Yeah, so it's like that traditional investment property. It's like you're buying it with the intention to give it to a property manager to manage and rent it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you have different, and there's, as I said, there's commercial and residential. They both have their pros and cons depending on what strategy you want and what part you're at your retirement cycle.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Like if we talk, I think part of this asset type is important, like commercial versus residential. Do you find that one asset's better than the other, or is it just really depend? Like, how do you determine that strategy, I guess, is what I'm coming up.
I think borrowing capacity determines the strategy at the end of the day, and that's really what it is. So I deal with mainly just the everyday Australian that has a normal household income, that 100 to 200,000. So I don't deal with a lot of businesses. So a lot of businesses would be something for them to really focus on getting that commercial space that they can utilize themselves. So yeah, so that's where I look at it a bit. Like the residential area is what I sort of focus on. But it's each to their own at the end of the day. Like if you've got enough money to purchase a commercial property, it does have higher passive or higher incomes associated with it and longer leases. So there's a lot more security.
Yeah,
where
for
the
sure.
residential is obviously a little bit smaller front costs, but we look at growth and we look at obviously rental yield as well. So over the course of 20, 25 years, however long you start this process, we're going to start with a property's going to grow every 7 to 10 years and double and get you to a stage when you get to that pension phase, you're in a good position.
Well, that's one of the questions I do have, going a little bit off script here, but like to follow up, is the property asset that you do purchase and like that, is that something you do have to hang on to till that retirement age necessarily or not?
For me, that's the strategy I like to let people know about. There are other people out there in the buyer's agents and probably financial advice space that, do work on just flipping them over, but there are obviously tax and capital gains implications with that. The capital gains does drop down to 15%, but in your pension phase, it goes to zero. So for me, I think it's, finding something that's a blue chip, you're going to be your cornerstone and be that one property that you can utilize for your retirement later on is probably more beneficial than just, changing and flipping them every 5 years or 6 years or something.
I like that. Yeah, it's all about the strategy. Yeah. So it's like, you're not just picking, okay, I'll keep it for 7 and then I'll do this. It's like, no, the strategy is it's going to help your retirement.
Well,
so how's it going to aid that? At what point do we do it?
Well, I feel like it's better off, let's buy one really good asset. Let's pay it down. And if we've got enough time, let's purchase a second one. And then, we'll pay off as much as we can. And then if we do have enough time to pay it off, great.
Yep.
Because then we've got 2, obviously, funneling us pension money during that phase. Or we pay off, we sell the other one, and then obviously just dump the non-taxed benefits into our big fund at the end.
Nice. And, I think one of the things here, we've talked about restrictions, like who can live in the property. So I think you said that very clearly. You can't know them. It's got to be someone very far removed. What's the process of setting one up and how long does it usually take? So if we did an example of like, I'm a person who's thinking about this SMSF. I've made that decision that I want to do it. Where do I start? What do I do? And how do you help?
Okay. Well, we'll start with how long it takes to set up before I sort of jump on. But basically the setup can range between sort of, say, 2 weeks to a month. So it's usually 1 to 2 weeks to set up the fund, a week to get the bank account done, and then it's about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on for the rollover, which is usually the longest part, waiting for the industry funds to let go of their money. So that's the process in a nutshell. It's actually quite simple and quite quick to get to that point. And I think half the battle with a lot of people not knowing what a self-managed super fund is and being able to see whether they can put property in is the lead up to that.
Yeah.
There's obviously the education, and us talking about it today is a great example of that. And that's mainly what I do on my channels is just shorts on education and just giving people information about SMSF and what it takes to set up and all those little steps that it does take. So it's just getting them comfortable and getting them, and it's just a layer of trust to know that that's something that they can do and then they're comfortable about doing. And we try to obviously help them through that process along the way. Our process is similar to most sort of service-based process. We will have a discovery call with someone that makes an inquiry. Just make sure they're a good fit, because at the end of the day, as we talked about earlier, giving some people some hard truths sometimes when you find out what their funds are, what their income is, which are pretty much the main stuff that we need to know about. We can say, yes, this can be something that you can do, or I can sort of say, nudge them in the right way and say, okay, well, maybe you need to get to this point in relation to your fund for us to do something with down the track.
Right. So it's like when someone engages you, you're not just kind of saying yes or no. It's more of like, well, look, you may not be here yet, but here's what you need to do to get here.
Yeah, and there's lots of different ways to skin a cat. I think sometimes you come to me, Joe, and just say, okay, I've got $180,000 in my super. And I go, okay, well, we can do something with that, but it's on a very, very small scale. You're not going to have much diversification. In the long run, it's not going to be great for you. So it's something that I would say it's probably something we just put a hold on. But if you said to me, oh, but my partner's got another 100,000, that builds that to 280, 300. And then we go, wow, we're in the ballpark. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, we're able to use up to 6 members inside an SMSF. So, even if you think it's a great thing, you can go to your brother or sister and have put a family come together and build something. Yourselves that looks after yourself and everyone. So everyone chips in a bit and you can get there. So there's, as I said, many ways to sort of get it sorted at the end of the day, even if you come in yourself with the early example of, I don't quite have enough, but what can I do?
That's awesome to know that. And I think, that's security. I think a lot of people don't probably realize that SMSF is not just like, now we're learning together, guys. Like, it's not just about you personally, but it's also a very good angle or tool for your family, potentially.
Oh, it is. And most of it is, like the Bureau statistics show that it's mainly just couples that are joining members. But it can be utilised for, as I said, up to 6 members. So if you've got a family that's growing, everyone get together and, buy a property.
So I'm looking at Karina, our marketing manager, who's behind me, and I'm like, okay, so when will Geordie get a job? Geordie's like, he's very little.
Put him in the pot.
Yeah, it's like, we've got to put him in. Maybe we'll just make him the editor. I digress. But no, it's good to know like these real life scenarios that exist. And I guess one of the other things to talk about is what role, like, your role in all of this is important, because let's say someone does have the ability to go forward, so they're not being turned away. Yep. So do you kind of help them through that initial phase of the application and like making sure it transitions, or not really?
Yeah, like mainly I'm doing all the education up front and that I'm getting them at the infancy. So I'm getting them at the start. So some people will have financial advisors or planners or tax accountants and mortgage brokers that they use already. Most people don't. So they need a helping hand to put them onto people that are, profound in SMSF and property investment. So after my initial discussions and having chats with them, then I will introduce them to a financial advisor or a mortgage broker as we go through those steps, and an accountant for all that setup. The most important one for me is the financial advice that they get. I've dealt with clients where they've decided that they don't want to have financial advice and things blow up. And we can talk about that probably a bit later when you ask me some questions. But but yeah, usually it's, financial advice is the most important thing. The great thing about the SMSF as well is anything that relates to purchases with property or financial advice, buyer's agency fees, conveyancing fees, your accountant's fees, all the setup fees are all come out of your self-managed super. So nothing comes out of your actual savings. So what happens is once all the funds roll over, then you start getting invoices for the job. So I've got a client at the moment that I signed up in November, December last year, and it's taken a bit of time, but we've just going through that process at the moment, rollover. So I've done 8 months of work, and we will be getting paid probably very shortly. So that's an extreme case. Normally, from start to finish, it might be 6 weeks, something like that. So you do quite a bit of work in that time before anything changes hands, depending on the product or property product that we pick.
Well, I think that makes the idea, like, because you're an advocate, right? You're a buyer's advocate and you're specialising in SMSF.
Yep.
I think that makes that process much more like, what do you call it? Like, it's an entry point. If you've never used a buyer's advocate and you've got some hesitation towards the process, which some people do, this is a way to also start the journey.
In a sense, I project manage the whole lot.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I mean.
So I get it from the start. I introduce to everyone, and then I also, once the whole process is completed, and then we still don't stop there. We do yearly reviews, so we review everything, making sure that the clients are happy. They're starting to pay off some of those of their loans and that sort of stuff, so the debt starts to drop, and then just to see what else they can do inside all the different environments as well. So we're just not just there for one go. We're there for the whole journey.
Yeah, and that's what I love. So this is really thorough, and I think that's extremely important for a buyer to have your support through the journey, right? And it sounds like you're there from all of us, especially your poor buyer that's there for 8 months.
Well, we haven't even got to the buying part
yet,
which
that's
is coming up, which is the fun part, like, just to be honest. But I'm there the whole, like, they haven't been through the process before I have, right? So being able to sort of hold their hand through the whole way is what I'm here for. And, at the end of the day, I'm here to help people. And that's the crux of it. And I want to see them do well, and I want to see their families do well, and then build legacies, like, especially in coming from situations that similar to mine, where you just don't think there's anything possible, being able to give them a glimmer of a hope and just seeing there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's priceless, right? Yeah. It's like being able to give that to someone. And it kind of leads me into this next section that, I imagine there are some very real rules and responsibilities that come with this. So, we've talked about like process, but who would be the ideal, like, for our listeners who are tuning in going, oh, this sounds like it could be for me. Who's the ideal candidate for like this type of strategy?
Well, obviously someone that's, positive about investing is one, because, being risk adverse, that makes it very hard if you sit on the fence and you just aren't ready to make a decision. Part of it is obviously educating yourself enough for you to know that this is the way that you want to move forward. And then what we then do is we introduce you to financial planners that then back that up with facts and figures, and they'll go through everything, and then they'll say, okay, this is what you can do. This is what we can do. This is the amount we can do. This is how much we can borrow, all those sorts of things. This is how much we're going to put a buffer of X amount of dollars here. We're going to have a buffer of share here. This is all the different processes. This is the insurances we need to back it all up. So we know that if something happens or unforeseen happens, everyone's secure at the end of the day. So the financial planning's the biggest step, I think, for most to go through. Most are a little bit hesitant because they just feel like they don't want to spend the money and they know better. Yeah. They don't. Like, I'll be honest, and it might be a little bit harsh, but they don't, because most aren't accountants and most aren't financial planners and have gone through it. So it's very hard for the everyday person to think that.
I think I've had a lot of financial advisors on the show, and what I love about interviewing in their episodes is the value that they give. And I think a lot of people don't really know that. They think it's budgets and spreadsheets, and they're like, "Well, I got Excel and I know my budget." I don't think most financial planners, I love you guys, but I don't think you market yourselves too well. That's the issue, I think. That's right, because it's always a service that's offered too late. Like, when you buy the property and the asset's done, then they come in and say, would you like financial planning? And for a lot of buyers who've been on the market for the nationwide average of 9 months, they're done with talking about money and finance. Like, they've just gone, please, like, need a break before I even think about how to manage this asset. But it's honestly the right time to do it. Get
like, if I'm doing some Facebook or Meta ads, and I start talking to a lot of people, one of the other questions I like ask, are they investing at the moment, and how many investment properties they have, and that sort of stuff. So if they come to me and say 2 or 3, but they've hadn't asked them if they've had advice about them, and most of them, no. Yeah. And I say, you've got all this income coming in, to spend a little bit of it, go and get everything sorted out, so you know that you can do they might be able to multiply it and buy another 2 or 3 properties down the track, and they just don't even know it yet.
No, and that's the thing, that it's like one time, like you'll spend way more money on shit that we don't really need to spend it on before we do something that's it's not fun. It's like,
well, it isn't fun, but it can be fun. It can be fun
when
with
you get told.
The money you got in your pocket at the end of the day to go and spend and travel and spend it on your grandkids or
That's right.
your own kids and all those sorts of things. So
it's like, it's not fun. The idea is not fun. It's like, well, yeah, but if I buy a PlayStation today, I will have more fun. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but what if you could own like 10,000 PlayStations? Like, why don't you talk to a financial planner and you can do that?
Yeah.
So it puts it in reality. And then, I guess what do you think are the biggest mistakes, people make when they are trying to maybe do this themselves?
Oh, great question. The biggest one I've seen is the DIY people. They'll see on the web, they'll see on a Google search or something, they'll see online, I can set up an SMSF for $900 or something like that. And then they just go and they fill out the forms and they get their company and they get it all sort of set up. When they go to purchase a property or go to, they haven't use the strategy that they've thought in their head, but not actually gone and spoken to someone about. They can't actually do it. So there's bits and pieces like that, which I just sort of shake my head a little bit. But all I can do is try and rectify the situation and introduce them to someone that can help them. Unfortunately, it's usually about spending a little bit more money than probably what they've already spent to set up the original one to fix. And most of it's down to names and putting them in the right structures and that sort of stuff, which aren't done properly at the start. It's usually just done in a basic sense and not geared for property or for setting up bare trusts and all those other bits and pieces that you need to sort of do for an SMSF.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like it's very common, like even with buying property, right? It's like you have a pre-approval, you've done all that, and then you buy the wrong asset in the wrong location, and
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Half the time, so yeah.
And look, that's what this show's about. It's about education, right? So it's like for those of you listening, we're not trying to give you a hard time and say you're wrong, but you're wrong.
In a nice way, though.
In a nice way. You need that support. Like, this is what it's about. You need to know your options before you dive in. Like, talking to someone like Jason about this stuff is not going to cost you money up front. It's a conversation to know your options and get that right advice from the start, you know? So this is just like the general advice that we're going to go through is just a guide for you guys to get on the right foot, get on the right step first.
Exactly right. Like, we're not financial advisors. I'm a licensed property expert. So like I can talk property and that's my niche, but I handball over to the experts at the end of the day. And that's why financial planning up front is like the most number one thing.
Well, it's perfect timing for this question, right? Because how important is it to have the right team around you? And what I'm talking about is we've talked about the accountant, but even the lender, the buyer's agent, like who makes up this team? And
well, basically, the first person we go to is obviously the financial planner. They devise the structure and the strategy around how this is going to look and whether you can actually do it. Like at the end of the day, you might not be able to do it, or we need to get to another level, whether, you might need to start sacrificing some money in and all that sort of stuff to get to where we need to get to. If we tick all those boxes and everything's hunky-dory, then we'll get it set up through like a tax accountant, so who specialises in SMSF and investment properties, because not everyone's created equal. So we want to make sure that you get the best advice. So they'll set up the SMSF company. They'll set up the bare trust, because a bare trust has to be separate from the company, because that's what the lending goes into under the limited recourse borrowing arrangement that you have to do. It has to be separate. They set up the bank account, and then all the rollover sort of happens. And during all that process, we have a mortgage broker that's sort of sitting in the background waiting for all the ducks to align. Normally by that stage, once they go through the financial planning stage, we have all their financials. So we're in a good space to find out what their borrowing capacities are and where I can start looking and where I can start doing my research and using what we do with our data and reporting to find out what the best areas are for getting the best bang for their buck.
Yeah, so it's like that advocacy part can really begin. No, that makes sense. So I love this part of the show. We're up to our, for those listeners who love tuning into this, we're at myth busting. So On today's one, this is all about SMSF, and hopefully Jason's up to the tasks.
Fingers crossed.
No, you'll be right. So what I've done is, if you don't know this segment, we pull real comments from Reddit, property forums, and it's also some of the ones that you've emailed to us throughout the week to talk about setting the record straight. So Jason's going to be our Mythbuster today, and I'm going to read them out and we're going to bust it away.
Beautiful. Love it.
Let's get into it. This first person says, this is from Reddit, sounds like you need to be in a pretty good position before even beginning to go down the SMSF road. Is that true?
No, obviously not true. It's is a bit of a fallacy that SMSF is for the rich people. See, there's a lot of high-end people that do utilise it, and there's a reason why they utilise it, because they make money. And that's what, a lot of people, we're trying to obviously expand and educate that, everyone can do this and set themselves up for life. So no, it's not true. But to start off, as I said, probably a good starting point, if you've got a balance around that 250 to 300 mark, then there's some real conversations that we can have in that space, whether it's you singly or as a joint with your partner or multiple members. And then it's just about, making sure we've got enough buffers in place, diversification inside that portfolio, and then obviously insurances are all correct.
Yeah, nice. I like that. And you know what? You're the pinnacle, like in the sense of you didn't come from like a buttload of money. It was, you did it too.
Yeah.
And at a point where things were tough. So
it's as I said, if you tick all the boxes and making sure everything's done properly, it's a no-brainer.
I love it. No, good one. Consider it busted. This next one is from one of the property forums on Facebook. It says, if that single asset's value goes over $3 million, you have to pay tax on unrealised gains. What's the actual rule here?
I can be a smart ass here and say that there's actually no rule yet because it's not passed as law. So it still hasn't gone through. And I did do a little bit of talking to my financial advisor yesterday, that it's going to be a hard ask getting that tax through. But it's definitely one to watch this space on. In relation to it, the extra 15% over 3 million of unrealised gains. I love that it's called myth busting, because this particular myth is only going to affect less than 1% of the population. So it's only the real rich. So 3 million, there's not too many of us at the end of our retirement. They're going to have 3 million. Now, it's not 3 million per fund, it's 3 million per person. Through per member. So it's where most, I think the average median in someone's fund might be around the 800,000 mark or something. So it's very, very far away from the 3 million mark at the moment. But, we talk about, CPI and all those sort of things.
Oh, that's true.
Depends how old you are now and how old you are in 20 years' time. But,
look, you could all be millionaires. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's right. But that number will grow over time too. So at the end of the day, it's still not a tax rule yet. So it's probably something we don't really need to worry about, but it's something that we can watch out for. But it's not really, 99% of it is not going to affect.
Yeah, there you go. So guys, two things there. Less than 1% of us will be affected. So don't stress. Yeah. Unless you are in that 1%, then fair enough. But it's not a rule yet. Okay. So it's a watch this space and be aware of it.
The government's still got to pass that one through.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, this next one's interesting. So this is from one of our listeners. Why can't I just use my normal super to buy a property? Isn't it the same thing?
Well, the money's the same thing, but the actual structure that you put your money into are two completely different things. So in relation to your normal industry super, you've put that into a fund. Normally, they'll diversify into lots of different asset classes, whether it's international shares, domestic shares, cash, all that sort of stuff, EFTs. And you buy an X amount of credits, et cetera, based on how much you've got in your fund. And then, so you can't just go and buy a property with that. Most of the time also, they're buying shares in other property developments and that sort of stuff. So you probably are purchasing property in a sense through their fund. So it's not the same thing. To leverage that and for you to take access, you obviously have to set up your own super fund. And for you to obviously have that strategy inside.
Yep. So no, there's a big difference there, guys. And this last one here, this one here came from Reddit. The setup and ongoing fees make it pointless. I think we've talked a little bit about this, but what's the reality on costs versus returns?
Well, normally you're buying the right property,
Yep.
or you're not. We're talking about property because that's what I deal in. We get the property into as positive position as we can straight away. Most of the time, we've got rental going in, you've got contributions going in from your employers as well. So the actual account itself is positive.
Yeah.
So it's fees wise, the super fund also does a tax return. So you're obviously paying or not, depending on what that is. But most of the time, in relation to yearly costs, like setup costs are a little bit different. They are a fixed cost that needs to be done at the start of the process.
Yep.
Obviously, we've got ongoing costs, which are, accountants' fees, tax returns, and normally we have to have an audit every 12 months as well. So, but they're pretty generous in about $2,500, something like that.
Right.
So in the scope of that, comparing it to an industry fund, it can be significantly cheaper in an SMSF, like as in yearly costs.
Well, yearly costs, yeah, it's like, a couple of grand here, but in comparison to what you're going to be building and setting up, it's a definite no-brainer in that way.
Well, that's right. At the end of the day, like, you're leveraging money.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about success and client stories, because I think the best way to picture this is by talking to you about who's really done this beforehand and how you've helped. So what's a recent example you have of an SMSF property purchase that you've helped someone, acquire?
So I did. I'll go back 12 months because it gives us 12 months of data. Okay,
like that.
So we worked with a client down here in Melbourne, couple, family, and we set them up. They didn't have an SMSF beforehand, so we had a few issues too. So it's probably a good example because I got the good and the bad for you.
I like it.
So started off well because they signed up and were really excited. We had our first financial planning or financial advising online meeting between the three of us. They knocked back the financial advice. They said, we'd love to do it, but we don't want to pay for it. So we might in 12 months' time or something like that. That was red flag to start with, which was a tough one. But so we went down a different path and we set them up through an SMSF admin service. They did a great job, got it all sorted and all that sort of stuff. So that was great. They can help with all the trust deeds and all those sorts of things as well. So everything's sort of done compliantly. And so we get through to the buying process. I go over, we bought over in Adelaide, bought off the plan. So part of my process, which is a little bit different to most buyers agents who just source property from other people, I actually go and spend a week in the areas that we actually decide to buy in. And then I'll be boots on the ground talking to all the agents. I'll be going to do all inspections. That's when you really get some of the juicy properties, off-market stuff that's just not accessible. And being there, talking to them, going to their offices and all that sort of stuff gives me that opportunity. So I just find it, and plus the fact that I don't think I can recommend a property that I actually haven't seen with my own eyes, which I find hard that a lot of other people use, either a property manager or another buyer's agent in the area. They don't have my experience and that sort of stuff. And normally when I walk through a property, and you would have too, Joe, when you've gone through so many properties, you go, this is good. And if the building and pest stacks up, you're like, that's a winner. And that's how I know, like, if you get that feeling and then you get that data to back up the rest of it. Like
it's like a home run.
You don't get that feeling if someone else does it. So, I spend a good portion of my fee going to areas, and that's all over Australia. Like whether I drive to, Bendigo or Ballarat, or I'm flying to Adelaide, or I recently did one up in Turkey Beach. Up from Turkey Beach in Gladstone and Rockhampton. So it's just what I do, and it's my process.
I like, that's very unique. You just kind of like, wherever you need me to go, I'll be there, like kind of thing. And I think having that kind of support in you really helps not to limit yourself. It's like you're looking at data and facts to help find the right asset, the right place. And if that happens to be, on the other side of the country, all right, that's where it's at. We'll have a look. Yeah. So
we ended up buying off market. It was great. I walked in to talk to we have relationship with the property managers. Went into the property manager, said, "Hey, how's it going? I've got this decline." We just sat down and had a good chat. And the boss comes in and goes, "Oh, I've got one off market here that might suit what you're after. Do you want to go and have a look at it tomorrow?" And bang, I walked in and it was just exactly what we were looking for. So saved saved their, probably 30 grand just by not going to auction and not being off market. So we got it for a good price at 500. We had it sort of valued at around that sort of 520 sort of mark. So it was,
nice.
it was undervalued, which was great. So let's fast forward 12 months, the sales in the area, which I just actually looked up because we're just doing a 12-month review at the moment.
Yeah.
And so the last couple of months, so it was, I think, February, sales were, around that 575, 600 mark. May, they were around 650 mark. And so now they're in between that sort of that 630 to 665 mark of sales, literally in 100 square metre around there. So we've literally, the values bumped up 120 to 150 just on that property within the space of 12 months. So it's just about making sure you, as I said, buy the right property in the right spot and then start building that rental after that.
That's right.
So that was a very good example. But I want to take you back and go back maybe a step, because that's the success part. The part that was a bit of an issue was obviously they didn't take the financial advice to start with.
Yeah, true. And that's right.
After we'd settled, we're going through before settlement, I'd found out that the client, so the wife, still had money in her industry fund, and which she'd kept for
emergency.
For her death and her TPD insurances. Normally, when you go through that financial planning, you go through a whole insurance scenarios and making sure you've got the right insurances for the property. Because they didn't decide to elect that, they took on that risk themselves. So then we found out that the husband had cancelled his whole policy, like not his whole policy, but before we even got involved, he did not have any insurance at all, no death, no TPD at all on his policy. And then he just rolled over all his funds and closed it out. So literally had no insurance for himself. So we then once we found that out, we went into
panic.
Not panic mode, but we went, okay, we've got to sort this out real quick. So we're lucky enough that the admin service that we use are great guys. They were able to hook him up with the appropriate requirements he needed, which in the end was probably the same amount it was going to cost him to get the financial advice. So it's just, at the end of the day, sometimes just spending that little bit of money, which is coming out of your SMSF, not out of your own pocket, just to safeguard yourself. And that's why it's super important that I preach it at the start, it's so important making sure you get that advice to start with. So you're not making these red flags and these mistakes as we go along, because it does. I mean, like we had to go and drop down tools and get it sorted, So but anyway, at the end of the day, they've got a great property. They're really happy. The growth's still there, which is excellent. And we just got to do a 12-month review and just see how else we can help them.
I think that's a really good story and a good example to anyone out here that's kind of thinking, is this the pathway? And then you've already had that thought of, don't worry about financial advice. I hope this kind of gives you that perspective, because there's so much to think about. And look, no matter how much research you do, unless you've got nothing to do and you've got no job, which in that case you're probably not buying with an SMSF, you need time to dedicate to this research and understanding it really thoroughly. And how much is your time worth?
About a little bit later, but I'm currently putting together a webinar, like a step-by-step.
Yes.
And I've just done... I've just finished all the infographics.
Oh, nice.
So just doing page by page. I'm up, it's like 12 pages of infographic steps. Like there's probably 200 steps. And this is like individual steps from, and I'm taking it from when they decide to give a discovery call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
No, it sounds it. And I think what's going to happen with your, we'll talk about it like you said, but I'm very keen on the fact that you've got a webinar coming up, and I like that you've done your infographic. There's going to be a shitload.
There was. Like you usually did it like to start with, you do it on paper and then I start putting it up on Canva and getting it all nice and pretty. But just the amount of steps are involved in this process is
unbelievable.
Is immense.
I can definitely see that. Jason, this has been such an awesome chat, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. We're going to have to do another episode. I think we're going to have you back for a few more in-depth insights. But, for final thoughts, and for someone who is listening and thinking maybe this is for them, what's the first step they should take?
Well, the easiest one is just to, reach out and we can just have a quick chat. Like it's the easiest way. As long as you know your your balances and your income. That's all. That gives us a good way to start. That's as easy as it can be.
Easy as it can be, and it's not going to cost you anything to have a chat.
Not at all.
And if there's one takeaway that you want everyone to remember from this episode, what is it?
I think it's just never too late to ask the right person the right questions, and that can change your life and your retirement. I think just asking the right person the right question.
I love that. And Jason, you're certainly the right person to ask any of the questions to. That's exactly why we brought you in. So thank you so much for your time. I need to wrap up here. You know, like I said today, for everyone, we've broken down a lot of things. And I think a lot of you guys will walk away feeling far more confident about what's possible with SMSF now. And like, you know, this super fund kind of activity. It's a powerful tool, but it has to be done right, and it has to be done with the right support in your corner. So to wrap up, what we've covered is what an SMSF actually is, the rules around property buying and key differences from using your regular super versus a self-managed super fund. We've also done a lot of myth busting, and thank you to those who submit your questions every week. Much appreciated. Keep it coming. You can connect with Jason at the smsfpropertyguy.com.au. You can find him on his website there. And you'll also find his free guide, SMSF Property Investing, the Smart Way. You can also book a quick chat with him. And for all of our listeners here, what's going to be really good that we kind of touched on, and I'll get you to quickly open up about this before we wrap up, but you've actually giving everyone early access before it goes public to your no BS webinar.
So sort of putting the finishing touches to the step-by-step how to purchase an SMSF little webinar. So it'll be a live webinar that we can send out to you. We'll also include the infographic booklet. So literally I'm giving away the keys to the kingdom. and then, you know, if you need my help, then you can reach back out. But so before we get early access to you guys, which is great, just to text me no BS webinar at my WhatsApp link, which hopefully you guys will put in the description.
Absolutely.
Just text me there, and we'll get that out to you once it's completed.
Thank you so much. That's a very generous offer. And
Not
guys, you're getting the keys to the kingdom. So
everything.
Please text no BS webinar to the WhatsApp link in the show notes. So you can check that out below. And again, Jason, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Jo. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Of course. And I had so much fun. This was a really good episode. And for everyone listening, if you loved this episode and you want more like it, make sure you like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to drop us a voice memo with your questions so we can keep helping you navigate the Aussie finance and property market without the fluff. We'll catch you next time.